teams?
Oh, absolutely. Tonight we are happy to be providing for you the games from NoDice Gaming, and their opponents this evening will be Crossfire Gaming.
Yes, absolutely. These are two teams that have worked their way through the SC2CTL ranks and will be showing us what they have tonight and working their way to see. And this is single elimination playoff, so whoever loses tonight is out.
Gone. Give them the boot.
And whoever wins does go on to meet their opponents. But this
is going to be the first match of the season. However, that the loser will be completely out.
Yep.
This is do or die time. You know, before it was still important because you want to get into the playoffs, you want to get those buys. But now we're at a point where if you don't perform, then you're just gone.
Yes, you cannot give up now. As I can't remember last season if we did single elimination playoffs. I think we did. It's the most cutthroat of ways to do it, and you know, with some of the teams you're going up against, it does leave the potential for some pretty big upsets too. We haven't had any just yet, I don't think, but I mean, we certainly did last season in the very finals. You know, so that is a possibility at any stage, but. Going on into it, we are going to have representing Crossfire Gaming, his name is El Fatal, and NoDice Gaming, HTO Mario, as we flip over into our bios for these players.
That is correct. HTO Mario, he is a Grandmaster Terran from Belgium, currently residing in the United States. He plays for NoDice's Academy team. He's a serious mech player, and he recently came out of retirement to play for NoDice Gaming. And El Fatal. He is a German Grandmaster Terran. He has played several small Go for SC2 events. He plays aggressively in Terran vs. Zerg, uses Widow Mines in TVP, and prefers tank play in TVT. Now, this is going to be a Terran vs. Terran game that we're seeing. So El Fatal has a 56% win percentage against Terran, and HDL Mario has a 62% chance against Terran. So we will see.
So both players have a good chance of winning in this TVT.
Right.
But as we jump on into it, game number 1 of the playoffs of SC2CTL Season 2 on Galaxy Blood Mist, one of those maps provided by the Galaxy map-making team. Thank you for that. In the upper left-hand corner, representing Crossfire Gaming, the color yellow, and the race of Terran, his name is El Fatal. The Fatal. The Fatal.
And in the bottom right-hand corner, representing NoDice Gaming and red Terrans everywhere, it is HTO Mario.
So TVT definitely been the least prevalent matchup we've seen this season. So I'm excited to see the things that we can come out of this. Last season, it seemed like we had a lot of TVTs. So much so that we were saying, can we have anything but a TVT?
I feel like we had a lot of PvPs. I mean, I don't have the data in front of me, so I don't know what was what, but
actually, yeah, I think we had a lot of both.
Yeah, there was a lot of mirrors last season, it seemed.
But TVT
it seems like there's more diversity this time. You know?
Right, absolutely. TVT definitely a matchup that we haven't seen a lot of, so we haven't gotten to see a lot of the flexibility that's in it, but it was El Fatal that was listed as being a heavy tank player in TVT, so we'll see what we see out of that. We've seen a couple of interesting plays also with some proxy factories and Widow Mines and whatnot, but HTO Mario heading out across the map a little bit earlier, and he's actually bypassing the scout of El Fatal as well, so he's going to get into the base of El Fatal to see what he has going on quite early, and he's going to see a gas already mining as well as a half-done barracks, so likely going to be some Reapers out of him.
That's right, and HTO Mario's gas himself is just finishing up, barracks is just finishing up. Pretty standard plays by both of these players right now, just kind of doing similar things, although it looks like a second barracks that's proxied before a command center. Now there is El Fatal does have an SCV in the command or in the base of Mario, so he did see that the command center was late. He saw that delay between the first barracks finishing and that command center, so he's got to have an idea that something funky's going on.
Well, there's also only 2 SCVs in the gas of HTO Mario, so this is something that he's definitely worked out here, as he does have a late Reaper coming in now due to that delayed gas and the second barracks going down.
Now, the SCV for El Fatal is heading across the map, and it's taking an interesting path. Oh my goodness,
Did
that
you see
Reaper.
it? He saw it.
And that's troublesome, but that SCV is going to get the job done before getting killed. And they just going to go lifting right on up, huh?
Now what? Come get me now, Mr. Reaper Man. But, I mean, to be honest, mostly a lot of what this is doing, yeah, the Reaper is sitting here trying to prevent the barracks from landing, but it's keeping the Reaper in the base of El Fatale. He's not able to get across the map and put any pressure on whatsoever.
That is correct. But at the same time, that's a pretty expensive unit to just be scouting with and then having to drag all the way across the map. I'm sure that's not exactly what he wanted to be doing with that barracks.
That is kind of funny, though. But, I mean, you know, it does give him a lot of freedom to not worry about those Reapers, too, because there are 2 of them. And now he doesn't have to make anything behind to defend. He has 2 Reapers of his own, but he's kind of keeping them in his base defensively and putting down a very aggressive command center at his natural expansion rather than in base like we've seen quite a lot this season.
Indeed. So it looks like El Fatale has decided that he's got enough Reapers to kind of be able to deal with if this barracks decides to land and is not going to be messing around with that anymore. And back to kind of similar builds, it seems. They're both putting down factories, both taking gas, both putting on reactors on their barracks.
El Fatale does have a command center in his base with the second gas coming down, but the barracks of HDO Mario is definitely just kind of hanging out over the base of El Fatale, you know, just checking out what he's doing. But he does see the barracks and factory producing as well as the starport coming down.
And I feel like just leaving that barracks there is just not the best idea. There are Marines coming out now that are going to be starting to chase it away. The Reapers have stopped paying attention to that and have moved across the map. We're able to take out the SCV that killed, or that was building.
Whose micro's better? It's obviously going to be HDO Mario in this instance, as, wow, HDO Mario saves both his Reapers and kills both of El Fatale in a straight-up 2v2.
Yeah, that was pretty good control there, and it almost seems like El Fatale, you know, I don't know what he was paying attention to, maybe that barracks that was flying outside of his base, but he definitely wasn't really paying attention to that fight, it seemed.
The cloak coming down out of El Fatale here, so he's going to be going for some Banshee play here. Kind of delayed Banshee play, it seems like it's a little bit on the late side, but he does have his expansion going down, and that barracks is being still pretty pesky from HDO Mario, but it's going to be pretty useful here because last time he was in base, he saw a factory on that tech lab, and now as he comes in, he's going to see the starport there and that tech lab churning away with its green ooze or whatever that is down there. So it's going to be quite indicative that there's going to be some cloaked Banshees, and as such, he's just going to move right on across the map with his Reapers and 3 Hellions, which, given there's only Marines here, is going to be kind of dangerous.
And, you know, I almost wonder if HDO Mario has had some play with Zerg. You know, he's using this barracks as though we're an overlord. He's using his opponent's infrastructure against him. Pretty interesting how he's using that control.
I can't tell there if that Banshee did see that medevac full of units, but the medevac was like, you saw nothing. Did a little juke there.
He sent a single Marine out to be the bait, but there is a number of Marines there ready to go. But there's the boost, and moving on in, Hellions go down and doing a little bit of micro to make sure that they don't take too much damage. Does lose a deep Reaper, and got a little bit too fancy there. I think he wasn't able to get a whole lot of damage done to those Marines, and he's going to be shut down somewhat. But now the Banshee is in position.
Wow, HDO Mario definitely showing his micro prowess here. I mean, there's been several instances now where his micro has definitely proven to be very impressive, and to be honest, quite above that of El Fatale here. But we'll see as he does another drop here. He has only lost 1 unit out of this medevac. Now with that Hellion going down, that makes 2. He does lose the medevac there though a little bit, so maybe I spoke a little too soon.
Yeah, this is gonna get cleaned up. The Hellions running for their lives there, but finally does get cornered. 2 Hellions are just kind of idling outside the... Oh, he found him now, so they're heading back.
The Banshee of El Fatale is still down here in the back corner. He does only have a 22 HP remaining, but it looks like it's going to go ahead and fly on home, maybe for some repairs. But Ravens coming out of both players, as well as more Hellions for HTO Mario.
Now, this could be pretty... if El Fatale decides to move out here, he's got quite the substantial army compared to his opponents, and that could be pretty bad for HTO Mario here.
Well,
they kind of decide to rally right next to each other.
Yeah, there's a lot of Marines here. That unsieged tank, those Hellions, if they may have gotten in there a little bit quicker, they may have gotten a couple pretty good shots, but now El Fatale does a nice split on his Marines to keep them all separated, so these Hellions certainly not going to be getting a whole lot done, and that barracks is still kind of hanging out in the back there, too.
Yeah, that was neat, too. El Fatale purposefully left that Marine up there with just enough distance so that if those Hellions tried to take that, then they would get a shot. That tank would get a shot off. And sure enough, he took the bait. Did lose the initial Marine, but
what is HTO Mario doing here? He's got another barracks flying over to the left.
I think that H2O Mario is just a Zerg player in Terran pants and is used to having these old.
This is like, you know what? I'm going mostly mech here. I don't need these barracks. I'm gonna just use them to scout. It's like there was a little bit of a pause there, but not any big deal. But there's what? Wow. Yeah, and now we've got some creep supply depots going down.
This is the strangest thing I've ever seen.
I definitely, I'm starting to be a believer in what you got going down here, Gallegation. But now El Fatale does see the scouting supply depots going down, and does he get a cancel? No, he does not. But you know, all these supply depots are in very key movement areas here. So I mean, even though he's doing that, he's keeping a great eye on where this army is. Now that barracks scouting out as well. These are some very useful units here of HTO Mario, and the supply depot now seeing the timing of the third base going down for El Fatale as well. So, I mean, HTO has a very good preparation here for this incoming wave, and those Hellbats coming up doing some pretty good damage on those Marines, but the unsieged tanks still doing good damage. The siege tanks of HTO behind this, though, doing massive damage to those of El Fatale.
Yeah, HTO Mario had a great pickup and drop of those Hellbats, one on either side of those sandwich Marines in between the tanks. Did some really good damage there. El Fatale is forced to move on out with those Banshees. Is going to try and pick out, yep, does get that SCB. You know, I gotta wonder why Mario didn't put that supply depot at El Fatale's third, just right where he would have landed it. You know, if you're gonna put it there anyway.
Now he's even building a turret here next to the supply depot for a little bit of detection. But as the army does come in here, it looks like he is going to cancel it. A little bit of healing went down that SCV. Nothing like a little bit of detection to help the forward push of your army. I definitely like what HTO's got going on here, but now the Hellbat's going to be raging havoc on the SCVs here. The siege tanks behind the line are, again, doing a lot of damage. Nice pickup there with the medevac to save the low HP tanks, but looks like they are going to be brought down here by the forces of El Fatale as he does sneak up from the back. And with one more load up in the medevac, HTO is just going to pick up and get right on out of Dodge.
Well, there's something I didn't know. You can apparently load grounded Vikings into a medevac. Never would have thought to do that, but
we're learning all kinds of things in this game, Gallegation.
Learn something new all the time. Well, I'm not really sure why Mario decided to push that front right there, right then. Was really trying to save that supply depot, I guess.
Well, I mean, it seemed like he had a pretty decent army, but El Fatale kind of did a little bit of a flank there, which I think caught him a bit off guard with those tanks in the back.
Yes. Absolutely.
He does have a few units here that are quite low, so it's being quite prudent here to bring some SCVs down and get some repairs on. And El Fatale at the same time is reinforcing that third base since he knows that HTO is getting some gumption up here to try and make a push on it. 4 Hellions kind of working their way that way. These scouting supply depots and barracks are still about the map, so HTO can kind of push out on the top side there.
And now Mario is going to be taking his third base to the north, not your normal position for taking a third base. He's really being aggressive in his expansion here. But those Hellions did decide to move in, were quickly cleaned up.
Yeah, lining them up there, but now HTO, knowing where El Fatale is going to move up, and there's going to be an engagement here, but looks like HTO not quite ready with that positioning. Looks like he's going to build another turret here as well. It seems like, I swear, last season I remember something like this now that I'm seeing it over and over again.
Yeah, he's really aggressively building these buildings here, but El Fatale is making him pay for it. He continues to push into this territory that he's trying to claim.
And he's building a sensor tower there too, which is kind of cool because you can see the movement of El Fatale's army now on a very aggressive standing here, so he can position his units well as well. He's got a lot of units in these medevacs. Hellbats dropping right on top of the tank and on top of the army of El Fatale. Oh my gosh, so much damage to these bio units. Tank even going down very quickly.
That was pretty crazy there with those Hellbats doing lots of damage, but ultimately they're taking a decent amount of damage as well. SCVs being pulled to go in after those tanks, but those are getting cleaned up at the same time. El Fatale doing his best to try and chase this off. Mario landing those Vikings to do what little damage they can to the remaining ground units. And
honestly, I think he mostly landed them just to give another little bit of buffer zone between the tanks and the units of El Fatale there, and that worked out pretty well. But now El Fatale's forced to lift off his command center, and I'm not sure exactly what he wants to do here. He's kind of keeping a little bit of army back, but now does stim up and gets a few units on here. But there still are tanks of HTO Mario in the back giving support, and now being laid waste.
Be pushed back, yeah, once again. Geez, another very aggressive command center from Mario all the way up to the north. He is just spreading out.
Yeah, look at the
once
command
again,
centers.
I claim that he's a Zerg player. This is not how you play Terran. This is how you play Zerg.
Looking at the income of HTO Mario is pretty crazy because he has literally just about double the income on both minerals and gas of El Fatale. So I mean, those bases definitely adding up here to something quite substantial, especially as the game goes on. But with this sensor tower, HTO knows the exact movements of everything that's going on. I love these aggressive sensor towers.
Yeah, and they're really defended well too. These tanks on the low ground are going to be able to pummel anything that comes near that sensor tower.
One thing I actually don't know is, oh, now he's having high-sec auto-tracking coming down, which is kind of cool, especially how he's got these turrets being built, which I think increases their range a little bit too. I wonder if it actually... I don't know, because I've never seen a sensor tower been built aggressively like this, if that actually does help the tank's range out at all.
I do not believe that it does.
I don't think so either, but more great micro dropping here from HTO, although the units of El Fatale are doing quite a bit of damage. Looks like they're going to be repelled here very briefly. The upgrades are in favor of El Fatale here, which is showing a little bit +1/+1, whereas there's only +1 attack for the mech units of HTO, but this tank and Marauder are definitely getting their money's worth here.
Absolutely. There was some scouting happening there. He did see that fourth base up in the top left. So El Fatale, I think, getting some idea of kind of what he's going to be up against and what he has to do to try and shut this down. But honestly, the units are just incredibly low for both these players. They just keep trading time and time again. Well,
I think what's cool here for HTO Mario is with that sensor tower, he can be really aggressive and just keep putting on the pressure because he can keep track of his opponent so well. I mean, El Fatale can't really swing around the bottom because the range on that sensor tower down there is so great that it would give him time to react. And I mean, he's just keeping pace with everything that El Fatale is doing. And honestly, he could just sit here for a very long time like this and basically win the game because El Fatale is sort of on 2.5 bases right now, and that's all he's going to get.
Yeah, and he really is pushing hard to try and break into this forward front that Mario's putting down. I almost wonder what the effectiveness would be if he tried to swing around the bottom, and it looks like that's exactly what he's going to try and do with a medevac that is full of units, but it's going to be going into sensor tower range. So the question is El Fatale keeping Mario busy enough so that he's not going to notice this coming in?
One Marine only makes it to the ground with the high-sec auto-tracking turrets there, taking that medevac out very quickly. And now the tanks here laying siege to the third base of El Fatale, which is not going to last very long here if he doesn't do some repairs. Also like how HTO has had quite a few SCVs up here repairing his tanks as they go as well, getting the most value out of them, and still just continuing to build these turrets to keep the air units back to stop. Actually, that's really cool because it stops the drops of El Fatale from coming and dropping right on top of those tanks.
Yep, and that's what he's trying to do. Now using scans to make sure that he knows his opponent is only on these two bases, that he's holding up the mining, and Mario's got to be feeling really good about where he's at right now.
Yeah, honestly, I'm not sure how El Fatale can really break this. I mean, because, yes, he can sneak around the bottom here, but not without being detected, and HTO now is in great enough army. I guess the army numbers are actually pretty similar here. El Fatale is going to try and take a repositioned third base sort of in the middle of the map here, but I'm sure shortly here HTO is going to be building yet another sensor tower and some other infrastructure-y type things to detect and see what's going on. More scans going down, look like from El Fatale, seeing the position of HTO's army.
Now here's, I mean, because you can see as either opponent where the sensor towers are on the map. I have to wonder what would happen if El Fatale decided to sneak a medevac in between where those two towers do not intersect, and if he'd be able to get something pulled off that way. But it looks like he's going to opt in favor of just moving in instead and engaging here. The tanks are sieged up though now, and they are volleying like crazy. The Marauders are doing some big damage there though, And Alphatal is pushing through here, but Thors for Mario are coming into the mix. There's just not a whole lot here at the front to be able to deal with it at the moment.
Yeah, to be quite honest with you, this is where the economy of HDO Mario is kicking in here. He's able to get these big meaty units in Thors as well as the tanks and Hellions, as well as his upgrades, because he's catching up in the upgrade count here. And now he actually has +3 that is just about to finish up, so he will be actually going ahead. But, you know, that income is now really kicking up the heat here for Alphatal, dropping a Thor right on those tanks.
Yeah, he's not playing around. And Alphatal's army just kind of gets cleaned up there. Mario was forced to pull about half the tanks that he had on the northern front, but honestly, there's not a whole lot to push there at the moment, and so I don't think that he's going to be any real danger over there just yet.
The resources lost are nearly identical, within like 150 minerals of each other, almost 20k for each player. And I keep harping on the income of HDO Mario, but that's literally what's winning him in this game right now. His production is far superior to Alphatal. Now the army is quite, where it was even not too long ago, now is almost approaching double the size.
Sorry, just laughing that there's a Alphatal is taking a page out of the supply depot kind of in the middle of nowhere. But in the meantime, these tanks are sieged up. They are pushing forward. They are moving into this third base of Alphatal, and Alphatal is having a hard time holding it back. These tanks are just relentless.
He is really trying to get a third and fourth base down, as now the tanks and mech units of HDO Mario moving in very aggressively, going to be able to take that out pretty easily. All the tanks sieging up in the back, and boom goes the dynamite for all those Marines. They live very short and sad lives, it appears, but that is GG out of Alphatal. So game 1 going to HDO Mario. Gallegation, that was one of them. That was a very, very aggressive TVT we just saw.
Yeah, very aggressive, especially for a tank-heavy mech style of play. You know, when you see those lines, they usually, I mean, it was a 30-minute game, but when you see those kind of front lines pushing and pushing and pushing, it seems like they go slower than that. I felt like he was just saying, nope, mine. This is my half of the map. You don't get any of it. It's all mine. And was able to kind of hold his own there. He was kind of trading right there in the mid-game. Maybe not the best, but he had the economy to be able to throw things away like that, and that was what ended up, as you said, allowing him to get way into the breakneck push at the end of the game there.
Well, the game out of HDO was kind of unique in that, I mean, we've seen some aggressive TVTs in other matchups. To be quite honest, it doesn't really matter, but the fact that he was just kind of moving his infrastructure along with his army really gave that army such a greater advantage. I mean, just being able to keep track of the positioning of his opponent, because a lot of times with those mech armies, I mean, really the real big downside is that it's so immobile and you can't defend your base very well. But a lot of turrets around his base, a lot of good static defenses. There was a YouTube video this week. I wish I could remember what it was now, a static defense meme, but he definitely watched that and took some advice from it. But a great aggressive game there. It didn't seem like a 30-minute game. It was quite entertaining, but that is going to put the score at 1-0 in favor of NoDice.
That's